Let's begin the second portion of our homework in chapter 27 of our Mounce textbook on the imperfective adverbial participle. So we'll start with translation 1 and we will make our way all the way through number 10. So here in this translation, let me read it aloud for us. Tauta apen in synagoge, didaskon in Capharnaum. So let's initially identify, and this is always a good practice, to identify the verbs in our sentence. So in this one we have two. We have apen and didaskon. So from here we can take note of apen. We know that this is from Lego. Okay. And this is one of those forms that you have to memorize. And the ending is here, the epsilon nu. And so we have an aorist, and we have an active, and we have an indicative, third singular. Okay? And then our other verbal form is didaskon, and this is from didasko. All right, and because we have this own, we know that this is a participle. The tau has fallen off of the end. So this is a imperfective active participle. Oops, that doesn't really look like a P there. Participle. And because we have the omega nu and do not have, if it was genitive plural, you would have nu ta omega nu, and we do not have that. So this is a nominative masculine singular. Okay? So then from there, and that would be while teaching. Now, in this sentence, we then have three other sets of words to examine. So the first one that we'll start at the end, we have a prepositional phrase in Capharnaum, which would be in Capernaum. And in Capernaum is going to be modifying the participle didaskon. And then we have in synagoge, which is another prepositional phrase. Now the question with this particular one becomes, is in synagoge modifying apen, or is it modifying didaskon? We'll come back to that in a moment, but let's close it out with this particular word, tauta. So tauta comes from hutas, and it is, you'll recall it starts with a tau, and because it has this alpha ending, you're going to have the alpha here. And so this is nominative or accusative neuter plural. But since you have a third person singular verb, and it seems that he said would make more sense than one of those situations where you have a neuter plural subject in a third singular verb, that it would be he said these things. Okay? He said these things. Now, the question then becomes, did he say these things while teaching in the synagogue in Capharnaum, which is certainly possible, but it seems, I think, more likely Particularly, well, actually, it really wouldn't matter if synagoge came before didaskon or both of them came after, although you might expect them both after, possibly. There is a bit of flexibility here, and at the end of the day, there is not a huge difference in the meaning of the sentence. But I think what we have here is he said these things in the synagogue. Okay, so this is the specific location where he said these things. And then the larger sort of context of this teaching in the synagogue, or this, what he said in the synagogue, was in the larger context of his teaching in Capernaum, or in Capernaum. So he said these things in the synagogue. I'm not going to write it all the way out. While teaching in Capernaum. Okay? All right, let's move on to number that. We lost our markings, but I think we'll be okay at this point. That we have an aorist, active, indicative, third singular. So, in the end, we have Ha Jesus, Jesus, came into Galilee. And you could translate it while preaching or preaching. Either one. I think probably preaching here would work a little better, just to our ear. Jesus came into Galilee, or into the Galilee, preaching the gospel of God. All right, that brings us to number 3. Excuse me, because of the sigma here, but also because you've memorized the form. So, many will come on the basis of my name, or in my name. Now, obviously, they're claiming this, but certainly are not literally or actually coming in the name of Jesus. Which brings us to legantus. Now, legantus is from lego, and you have the omicron connecting vowel, you have the nu ta participle morpheme, and you have the epsilon sigma. So this tells us that it's a participle. The nu ta tells us it's a participle. Okay, so we know it's a participle. Okay, because of the epsilon sigma, we know it's nominative, masculine, plural, and we have a nominative, masculine, plural subject. Many will come. So legantus is done by the same entity who is the subject of our sentence. Okay, so many will come on the basis of my name, saying, while saying, this is happening at the same time, contemporaneous time, that, okay, ego, I, okay, so this is a nominative, singular, first person, and then a me is a present. We can call it active, although it doesn't exactly have a voice. Indicative, first singular. Okay. Now, in John's Gospel, we see ego a me, and it's a statement to make the assertion that Jesus is equal with the I am, with Yahweh. But in common parlance, in the time, ego e me would mean I am he, or it is I, and I think that's what we have here. So many will come on the basis of my name, saying I am he, or it is I, and maybe even making the claim in certain contexts where you have sentences like this, and it may even be the one in the Mounce text, where folks will come and claim to be the returned Jesus as they seek to lead astray believers. Okay? So, from here, so we have to figure out what's going on. Remember, nominative, masculine, singular. So that's modifying the subject of this verb. It's our only nominative singular we have. So he was going his way, and then we have this nominative masculine singular participle from Cairo. It's an imperfective active, and it would be rejoicing, or while rejoicing. So the one who's going on his way, is also the one who's doing the rejoicing. Okay. I'm sorry for the switches between slides. I'm not exactly sure, to be perfectly honest, what's causing it. But just now, that gets us to the last part. So now we have ton logon kuriou. Okay. So ton logon is in the accusative case. The ton tells us, if we've memorized our article, the ton tells us that we have an accusative masculine singular here. If we've learned the case endings as well, the new tells us this is an accusative masculine singular because we know logos is a masculine noun. So an accusative would be the object of the verb, and that's going to be the object of teaching, the teaching and the preaching. And then to kuriou, to is going to tell us that this is a genitive masculine or neuter, but if we look here, we see kuriou is also in the genitive. They are agreeing in case, gender, and number. So this is a genitive masculine singular from the noun kurios, the word of the Lord. So that is going to be the object of these, particularly of euangeli zomenoi, but also didascantes. There's a compound participle here. So in the end, we have, but Paul and Barnabas stayed in Antioch, and you could say while teaching and preaching the good news, or just even preaching, since you've got the direct object there, with also many others, the word of the Lord. Okay. Brings us to number 6. In number 6, we have K, anabinon, ha Jesus, eis Jerusalema, Jerusalem, par elabin, tus dodeca. So the main verb of the sentence, par elabin, you haven't had yet, although if you sort of acted like the par is not there, you certainly have had elabin. This is an aorist, active, indicative, third singular from, notice the lob here, from paralambano. He, she, it took. All right. So then we have anabinon, which is from the verb that you had in this chapter, anabino. Okay, and because we have the omega nu here, we know that this is, along with this particular stem, we know that this is a participle. We know that it's an active participle because you don't have mena or mene. And we know that it's participle because you got the own ending and it's a verbal form. And if I didn't say it, it's an imperfective because there's no tense formative anywhere. And then with the own, we know that it's nominative, masculine, and singular, which makes sense because the subject of our verb, par elabin, is ha Jesus, who is nominative, masculine, singular. So the weird thing about this one is that you've got this into Jerusalem phrase here. And the question is he going up into Jerusalem where the eis Jerusalema would modify anabinon, or is it modifying per elabin as it relates to the 12? So tus dodeca, tus tells us this is accusative masculine plural, and dodeca means 12, or the 12, talking about the disciples. So the question is it Jesus, or while going into Jerusalem, and while going into Jerusalem, Jesus took the disciples, or, and while going up, Jesus took the 12 into Jerusalem. While honestly, in some ways, it would make more sense for eis Jerusalema to be here, I think, in looking at this and pondering it a bit, that the construction would say that Jesus took the 12 into Jerusalem, while going up. So he's going up to the city, and he takes the 12 into Jerusalem. All right, that brings us to number 7. Again. So ekbalon is from balo, really ekbalo. It has the double lambda and it has the omega. So this tells us, again, with the double lambda, it tells us it's got to be imperfective present with the lack of the nu ta, but with the omega nu, which is sort of hiding, in a sense, the presence of the nu ta. We know this is a participle. We know that it's active. And then with the omega nu, we know that it's nominative, masculine, singular, just like kerusum. So here again, whoever it is that comes is both preaching in their synagogues in the whole Galilee and casting out demons. So here again, this is talking about Jesus. So ekbalon again is an imperfective, present, active, participle, nominative, masculine, singular from ekbalo, and it means casting out or throwing out. Which brings us to a new sentence. Then we have another K, sort of tie the two together. And then we have erkatai, which is from erkamai. So this is the third person singular form of erkamai. So it should be an omicron instead of an epsilon. Okay. So we've got a present, middle, or deponent, whichever words you want to use. I would say middle is better. A present, middle, indicative, third singular. And now we got to figure out if we have a subject. And notice down here we have lepros, which is omicron sigma. It's a second declension. And you got the sigma ending. This is telling us this is a subject. And a leper. This is a historical present as well. You might see it translated as a leper came to him. But I think it would be better for our purposes at this juncture, to say, and he is coming. You could even go so far as to say was coming, because what happens in the historical present is that verbs of speaking and movement tend to be used in the present to indicate this movement of action, to give a vividness to the action, even though it's something that took place in the past. So we can just translate it, and he is coming, or a leper is coming to him. Okay, auton is the object of pros. And then you've got parakalon. This is from parakaleo, which is crying out, begging, asking for help, those along those lines. So we've got this parakaleo here that is from that is telling us here and here that first of all we have a present imperfective participle, and because of the own we don't have a mina, mene, or a nu ta, and we know that it is going to be an imperfective active participle, and that it's nominative masculine singular, because again if it was genitive you would have the nu ta, and the object of that is parakalon is auton, because it's in the accusative case. Okay, so the second part, and he is coming, and the leper is coming to him, exhorting him, begging him, even depending upon the context. Okay, that brings us to number 8. All right, so here we again have a de that's going to be post-positive in our translation of and or but let's read it aloud before we move on to that. Os, or hos, de, ein, in tois, Jerusalumois, in to pascha, in te heorete, or actually, excuse me, let me say it again. Heorte, paloi epistuson, eis ta anima autu, theoruntis autu, ta semea ha epoe. Alright, so the host is not going to be translated first, but you would have the de, the but as, or while even with the host. Then we have the ain, which is the third person singular imperfect form of a me. He was in Jerusalem you could maybe even translate it during the Passover, during the feast. So you've got really 3 qualifiers here of when he was there. In Jerusalem, during the Passover, during the feast. All right, so that brings us to the next part, and we have paloi, epistuson, eis ta anima autou, theoruntis, autou ta semea ha epoie. All right, so again, we have paloi, which is the nominative masculine plural form of palus, many, and then we have epistuson. So we see epistu as our stem or verb stem. Do we have an augment? Yes. Do we have a tense formative? Of course we do. And so here we have an aorist, because of the sigma alpha, active indicative third person plural from pistuo. Many believed in, and then we have into ta anima autou, his name. All right, then we have theoruntis. This is from the verb in this chapter, re. Not an omicron, an omega. Theoreo. So we see the new ta. That tells us right away it's a participle. We see the un as it looks here, where the epsilon, the omicron of the contract vowel have combined. And so we have this situation where the many believed in him, seeing his signs. Now it's a little odd that the autou would precede semea, but semea is the one with which it is attached. Probably is not after, because of the connection to the relative clause here. So ta semea is the object of theoruntis. So many believed in him while seeing his signs, or because, if you wanted to treat it as a causal, because they, notice again the nominative plural here, which would connect with this verb, because they were not seeing the signs of the end. So they believed in his name because they are seeing his signs, which, this is the relative clause, which is modifying semea, which he was doing. Okay, epoie here is from poieo. It has an augment, and you have the epsilon of poieo plus the epsilon of the third person singular ending, which leaves us with epsilon iota. Okay, so many believed in his name, seeing his signs, which he was doing. Remember, epoie doesn't have a tense formative. It's imperfect, imperfective. So it's happening in the past. It's kind of an oblique sort of point of view as it relates to watching it head on in the present tense. So, which he was doing. Okay? All right. That brings us to number 9. We've got 2 more to go for this set. So then, totes, so let's look at this. Tote, pros eilthin, auto, he, mater, tone, weon, zebedeu, metatone, weon, autis, proskunusa, ke, itusa, t op au tu. All right. So then, we have proselthen is a verb. Notice that it comes from pros erkamai. Then you have to him. That's in the dative masculine singular, referring to the one who is speaking here. But he came to him is kind of in the came to is in the verb or toward. Now we get the subject of that verb. Hey mater, that's the mama, is the subject of this coming to. The mother of the sons, notice this is plural, weon, the sons of Zebedee. Okay, so then she came to him, the mother of the sons of Zebedee, and then we have she came to him, meta ton weon autes. So she brought the boys with her to James, the son of Zebedee. Okay? And the autes here is a genitive feminine singular that goes back to mater. All right. So then, let's say it one more time. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to him with her sons. You can see how it's a little redundant. The mother of the sons of Zebedee came to her with her sons. But it's being emphatic that she is the mother of the sons of Zebedee, and the boys came with her when she came to Jesus and made this ask. So then we have proskunusa, k etusa, t op au tu. So proskunusa is from proskuneo, which means I serve. Kind of literally, it means through the dirt. Whoops. Proskun o. Okay. And etusa is from iteo. And if you look, you're going to see a lot of similarities between these two words because they're both participles and they're both feminine. Okay. So the reason why I'm sure you can expect that we're going to see a feminine participle is we've got a feminine subject, and better believe it that both of these participles are nominative feminine singular, because remember usa tells us it's a participle and also that it's not nominative singular in the accusative, so we learn it in this fashion. Okay, so both of these are nominative feminine singular. You can do the same thing with other circumstances where there's male subjects and things of that nature. So the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to him with her sons. And then we have proskuneo, serving him, something like that. And while serving and asking what, and you probably have to supply an it is, or what is from him, or sort of what he could do for them. What is from him that he could give to these sons of Zebedee? Essentially, this is an awkward one. The T op out to what is it from him is a little awkward. What would it be from him as they came to him and worshipped and praised him there with Iteo. All right, so that gets us to number 10. Hopefully we're not all running out of steam here, but this is our last one in this set. All right, so we start with dikeosune theu, the righteousness of, well, this should be capitalized. The righteousness of God. Okay, the righteousness of God. All right, then we have pephanerotai, which is from phanerao, which you, I think, have had. I reveal or show. But you haven't had perfect verbs yet. So what you have here is phanerao. He, she, it has been revealed. So this is nominative, feminine, singular here at dikosune. The theo is, or the theou is following after its head noun. The genitive is the righteousness of God has been revealed. Okay. And then we have the rest of this. Marturu mene, hupa, tu namu, ke tone, propheton. So we've got a prepositional phrase here starting with hupa. Okay. Hupa plus the genitive. And so here we have by the law and the prophets. Okay, so namu is subject to that, as is prophetum. So you've got a compound object of hupa by the law, and this is genitive plural, tone, propheton. And notice this is different than the verbal form of this cognate, of this similar rooted word, propheteo, as it opposed to prophete. And then we have martyru mene. So we know that this is from martyreo. So this is the stem we can see. The omicron and the epsilon have combined here. Epsilon plus omicron. Okay. Martyrumen. Okay. And then we have the men, which tells us it's a middle passive participle. Okay, so it's a present middle passive participle from martyreo. And it is, because you've got the men and then we have the a here, a nominative feminine singular from martyreo. So while testifying or testifying. So the righteousness of God here is, in a sense, personified. The righteousness of God has been revealed and being witnessed to by, and you're certainly adding in some words there to clarify it, the righteousness of God has been revealed. And then we have by testifying, or maybe having been, sorry about that, it's middle passive, and it is translated passively because martyreo can be translated passively. So we've got the righteousness of God has been revealed, having, or really you shouldn't say having because it's not a combinative. So the righteousness of God has been revealed, being testified by the law and the prophets. This last one is a bit more difficult. I apologize for the call there. I declined it. Let's finish this off. So the righteousness of God has been revealed, being testified by, and oftentimes you'll see that hupa following middle passive verbs, both in English and in Greek. So the righteousness of God has been revealed, being testified to, or being proclaimed, testified to by the law and the prophets. All right, so hopefully this work in 1 through 10 has been helpful, beneficial to help you recognize maybe where you might have had a couple of question marks or spots that were not terribly clear, and they've been cleared up. And hopefully this will help moving forward in your study of the language. Have a blessed day.